I graduated from Emporia State, that's what it was then, not university, Emporia State Teachers College in '61, and I taught the next 2 years at Miller Elementary School in Dodge City. It was really neat because everybody thought that John Kennedy was Peace Corps. Well, he was a lot of other things too. He was pushing for physical fitness. And we had a real progressive lady principal, and she knew that I had done some tumbling, and several other teachers had too. So we started up a program to get the kids to school early, where it was nice and warm and a good environment. And so I'd go to school in my jeans and my sweatshirt, and then we'd have our tumbling class. We'd do exercises, and then there were the other two teachers, Lyle and Mrs. Parks, would help, and practically everybody in the school came early just so they could be in tumbling. At that time, teachers weren't allowed to come to school in anything but hose and heels and a dress. So after we stopped the tumbling and the kids would go to their classes, one of my students' parents would come in and start the day by taking attendance and the Pledge of Allegiance and all that, while I took off my jeans and put on my nice clothes. And we got a letter from President Kennedy after there'd been a write-up in the paper in Dodge. Somebody had mailed it to the president, and we got a nice letter congratulating us on our efforts to have physical fitness in the school. And I thought that was really a neat thing that we did. And then I got married and went home and stayed a while, and a teacher had broken her contract in Kinsley at Lincoln School. And we were needing some money to pay for some land, and so I applied and I got the job. I went to work in the 1st of February and finished the year out in 3rd grade. And so then I went home and had our second child, and then after our third one got in kindergarten, why, I'd been substituting quite a bit, and Mr. Graff called from Lincoln and said he had a teacher that was ill. Would I come take care of the 6th grade? So I did, and she didn't come back, and she didn't come back, and she didn't come back, and finally he made the husband tell him what was really going on, because it was time for report cards already, and found out that she'd had a nervous breakdown. So she resigned. I finished the year. And so he asked me if I wouldn't like to go to the 4th grade and teach, and I said, oh, no, I didn't think so. And he said, oh, I really think you'll like 4th grade. It's a lot better than this 6th grade. It's more you. So I thought about it, and Bobby and I decided that it was fine, I'd do that, since Leanne was in kindergarten. And so I taught over at Lincoln again for a couple years, and then because of the enrollment, then I was sent to Southside, and I taught there a couple years, and then 4th grade was such a in-between class that they could put me in either building, and it worked. So they sent us back over to Lincoln, and then I went back to Southside, and a few years later, when they'd already consolidated, and there was 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th at Offerley. Well, they'd run out of room in Kinsley, so they packed 4th grade up and sent me to Offerley for 8 years. And that was really a fun time. We had a real good time in that building. And then I went back to Southside. And So I taught fourth grade for, probably 27 years. Then the last 3, I taught third grade. And when it was time for me to retire, or I decided to retire, they were going to close both Southside and Lincoln had been closed for some time, and make an elementary school over at Overley, bring the junior high back here. So I cleaned up my room and I told my daughter, I said, you bring Tara over, she's first grader. I want her there with me when I leave the building. And so she brought her over and said, what are you going to do, Mom? And I said, well, they're closing Southside. I've been affiliated with Southside since I was in kindergarten. So I want Tara to go along with me and ring the bell, because that was a big deal when I was a little kid, to get chosen to go ring the bell and ride the rope up and down. And so that's what Tara and I did. We went down and got the rope off the hook, and I gave it one ring and told her to grab on, and she rode up and she rode down, and we rang the bell 3 or 4 times. And I said, okay, now I'm going to leave my education behind after all these many years. I'm going to go out the same door. I'm going to leave through the same door that I came through as a kindergartner. And Southside's been closed ever since.